Hi class. So unfortunately I couldn't be in class today, so I'm going to give you the rundown of what we will be doing. So the first activity I'm going to have us work on today is tides and the pull of the moon and sun. So this will be the first activity. Hopefully you grabbed this as you walked in today. If not, you'll need to grab a copy of it right now. Um, so that'll be the first activity we'll do. The second activity I will have us work on today is graphing moon phases versus tidal heights. Um, this paper will be given to you after you have done the reading assignment. So this is the second activity, and you will graph your data using this data sheet. Each of the lab stations has one copy of this data sheet for you. So going back to the top, I'm going to explain how to do the first activity. So the first activity that we'll be working on today is tides and the pull of the moon and sun. The first thing I want you to do is to number the paragraphs numbered 1 through 11. I do count the side paragraphs next to the images as paragraphs, so make sure you count those as well. And like I said just a second ago, you'll find that there are 11 of them. So um, we'll read this together. The substitute teacher will be pulling your names from the cup and then calling upon you based off who she picks. Please read if you are called upon. And then after you have been called upon to read, the substitute teacher is going to um, put the marked text under the document cam so that you guys can follow along while you read. Make sure that you have everything underlined that I have underlined because those are the terms and the um, sentences that I feel are the most important from the reading assignment. Okay, so if you guys, or if you could please give the students a little bit of time to make sure their pages are numbered, and also for you to set up the document cam. If you need any help with that, please just refer once again to my sub plans. So I'm going to pause, or if you could pause the video now, that would be great. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that. Okay, good. The second activity that I was talking about that we'll do today is the graphing moon's phases versus tidal heights. So this activity you'll do at the lab stations with one other partner. Please do it in groups of 2, not groups of 3. You'll have you'll have part of the class period to work on this. Whatever you don't finish will be homework. So the essential question that we'll be answering or asking and answering while we do this activity is, how is the phenomenon on Earth affected by cyclic patterns of the Sun-Earth-Moon systems? The question that we're going to try to answer is based on your understanding of the effects of the moon phases, relative positions of the sun, earth, and moon during the lunar cycle on the range of tides. What would you hypothesize a graph of moon phase / date versus tidal height would look like? So what I would like you to do is I'd like you to come up with a hypothesis in the if-then format. Your hypothesis is going to be what you might expect a graph um, if you were to graph the tides, what you expect that to look like. By that, what I mean is, would you expect, for instance, a spring tide graph to have the most extreme highs and lows? If you did, you might have a hypothesis that says something like, if I were to graph the tides during a new moon or full moon, then I expect the tides to be the most extreme high tides and the most extreme low tides. If you wanted to do a second hypothesis or another hypothesis where you wanted to look at the effect of a neap tide, you might say something like, if I were to graph the tides for a quarter moon or a third quarter moon, then I expect the difference in the tides to be the least dramatic during a neap tide. So something like that is the type of hypothesis I would like you to write. If you need to rewind the video to hear it one more time, please do that. Okay, so once you have your hypothesis written, if you didn't quite get to it yet, then you can work on it when you eventually go to the lab station. The next thing that you guys will be doing today is you are going to make a tidal chart of your data. So When we actually go to graph our data today, we are not going to use every single day. So we will not graph every single day on our graph. Instead, we will graph days 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19, 22, 25, 28, and 31. So we are basically going to be graphing every 3 days onto our graph. Um, at the top of your graph, one thing you'll notice is that there are spaces for you to draw in your moon. So let's take a look at that right now. So when we look at the graph, we have days at the bottom, days 1 through 31. But at the very top of the graph, we have some unfilled moons. You are going to need to fill those moons in according to what that moon looked like on that day. So in order to be able to help you with that, you are going to look at your Santa Barbara Tides data sheet, which is right here. And for instance, on day 1, we have a moon that appears to be a waxing crescent. So for your unfilled in moon for day 1, you would draw in a waxing crescent for that moon. So if you want to do that right now, you certainly can. Okay, once you've drawn in all of the moons for those days, days 1 through 31, you are going to write these titles according to which moon it is. So you'll write a new moon if it's a new moon. WXC stands for waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing gibbous, full, waning gibbous, third quarter, and waning crescent. So you'll label each one of your moons according to which term best fits them. This is not necessarily the order that you will find yours in. This is just an ordering of terms. When you go to your back lab station today, there will be 4 colored pencils in each one of the cups. You'll have a red colored pencil, which you will use to graph your high tide data for AM, your blue colored pencil for your high tide data for PM, your yellow colored pencil for your low tides for AM, and your green colored pencil for low tides for PM. So you will make 4 line graphs onto this single graph. So when you're all done, you will have 4 total graphs. For where you're going to get this data at is you're going to use this data table. You'll notice that on the left side you have the dates 1 through 31. You have it separated by high tide and low tide. High tide is separated by the AM high tide and by the PM high tide. The low tide is separated the same way, a low AM tide and a low PM tide. Next to the AM number, you will see a tide with it in feet. So for the first date, you are going to make a point on your graph at 4.7. So on your graph, you are going to put a dot, and preferably with pencil, because if you make a mistake today, you can always erase it. So you'll make a dot with your colored pencil, your red colored pencil, because that's your high tide data for AM for date 1 at 4.7, which will be somewhere around here. For your second high tide data that you will make using your red colored pencil, it'll be at day 4, which will be at 4.9. So you'll make that somewhere around here. And then we are going to connect the dots today. So you will have a line graph made. Once again, you are going to make 4 total graphs onto your paper. And down here at the bottom right, there's a color key that you will need to fill in. One thing to note about this that sometimes is a little tricky for students, you'll notice that for some of these, there is nothing written there. So for instance, when you go to do your data point for the high tide PM data, you'll notice that there's a missing blank right here. If you have a missing blank on your graph, do not worry about graphing that. Just leave it, leave that spot empty on your graph. If you have a blank, so for this one, during the low tide, you'll have a blank, I believe it is right here for low tide AM. You will just connect your dot from the previous to the next one in the sequence, which is 10. Okay. I have given a copy of this worksheet to the teacher. So if you have any questions on what yours should look like at the end, please ask the teacher. So this will represent the second activity today. You will have approximately 25 to 30 minutes to work on this. After that time is over, you guys will watch the video clip Earth Without a Moon. If you have any questions for me today, if you were confused at any point, please use Neo to send me a message and I will respond at my earliest convenience. Thanks, guys, and have a great day. Please treat the sub exactly how you would treat me, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.